This program is brought to you by SAMCETA, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association.
Why should you invest the next 20 to 30 minutes of your time in watching? Have you ever wondered about the people and purpose behind various businesses on the peninsula and Silicon Valley? Who works there? Why? What do these companies and organizations really contribute to our communities? If you are even a little bit curious, take a moment and hear their stories and why business is more than the bottom line. For 7 decades, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association, better known as SAMCETA, has championed the business community by convening and connecting them to the communities in which they make their home. People hear about Genentech and Oracle, but do they know about Design Tech High School and Future Labs? My guess is no. But even if you have, we are going to tell these stories and many more. The stories of your friends and neighbors who work there and how they contribute and collaborate through their employers, with our food banks, our schools, our youth sports teams, our art and cultural groups, our veterans and seniors, how their companies give back and believe in more than the bottom line. On today's show, we'll be featuring Mike Sangiacomo, the president and CEO of Recology, and Mario Puccinelli, vice president and group manager. Welcome to More Than the Bottom Line. I'm Roseanne Faust. I'm your host today. And with me is Mike Sangiacomo, the president and CEO of Recology, and Mario Puccinelli, vice president, group manager of Recology. Thank you so much for being here. We're very excited to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So how we'd like to start our episode today is to have each of you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your career trajectory. How did you end up at Recology? And just give us a little background. Mike.
I'll start. My father was an Italian immigrant and came to work, got to a job at one of the Recology companies, wasn't called that back then, in 1937. I grew up around the business, and I was a young teenager and went to work with them one day. We left the house at midnight, started picking up garbage at 12:30 in the morning in Chinatown in San Francisco. And I went home that day and said, I'm going to college. I did not want to do this. And I didn't. I became a CPA, practiced public accounting for 7 years, joined a company in the rice milling grain trading business, and then got recruited to become the CFO, Chief Financial Officer at a company called Sunset Scavenger, one of the Recology companies, in 1983. And was there when we did our Esop transaction. And
Mike, tell us what Esop is.
An Esop is an employee stock ownership plan. The company had always been owned by some of the workers. Originally it was all, became some over time, and then as that generation started to leave, we needed to do something with what the ownership of the company was going to be going forward. And the decision was made to sell the company to a plan that benefited the employees of the company.
Wonderful.
And that was 1987. 3 years later, I became the company's chief executive. I'm now in my 30th year.
And you started as a teenager back in the interest in the business with your dad, but you've come kind of full.
That was extremely common. Lots of the younger fellows at our company came with their dads. Wasn't an option.
I think that's fantastic. And Mario, was it similar?
My story's similar. I can remember my uncle was a shareholder in the company, and he used to hoist my brother and I in his packing barrel around the garage, and that really was how I got started. And then I joined Recology in 1978. And I, similar to Mike, started at a younger age, but I worked on the trucks. My path was a little different than Mike's. I worked on the trucks in San Francisco. In fact, I can remember picking up Mike's father's home in the Cow Hollow district in San Francisco many years ago. So worked on the trucks, worked on different facets of the operation, and felt I wanted to do more with my career. And I got into management in the mid-90s, and From there, I became the general manager of a little company in San Bruno Garbage Company, a Recology company, and then was chosen to kick off our Recology San Mateo County franchise. And that's kind of my story.
I think it is fascinating because Recology turns 100 years old this year.
This year.
And with it being employee-owned, with your career history, your trajectory, tell us about Recology. Give us a flavor of the company, because as you know, the title of the show is More Than the Bottom Line. And I'm not sure I could find a more giving community partner than Recology, but we, myself and our viewers, would love to hear about the company.
The things we do today?
Yes.
Well, being an employee-owned company makes a difference to the people that work at the company. We've always tried to instill the mindset that you've got to go out and take care of your customers. That's the only way you keep the business going. That's how you preserve the business and help it get better. So the employees do a great job on the routes, in the offices, taking the calls, keeping the equipment running, all the things that we need to do. But we also like to do volunteer events. The communities know that they've got a company there that cares. We try and do one in each of our operating groups every year.
How many operating groups?
We have 5.
5, okay.
4 in California, 1 in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
Cover about 140 communities among all of those. Wow. So employees get involved in taking care of the business, in taking care of the community. We have what we call a Recology Ownership Culture Committee, that people, again, that believe in what we do, that want to make sure all of the employees get it. We'll talk to the folks that maybe need a little more honing in on doing things the right way. You know, taking care of the equipment, taking care of the customer, it's all makes the business run better.
And Mario, I think you wanted to...
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Roseanne, we are the largest employee-owned company in our industry, but what our structure is what really makes us unique. We have, as an example, minorities and women make up 58% of our shareholders, and diversity is really important to us.
So 58% are women and minorities.
That is correct.
Of your... Hats off. I mean, honestly, that's huge.
That's out of 3,800 employees.
3,800 employees, and 58%. That's fantastic.
Yes. And as Mike shared with us earlier, it really gives us, our employees, a vested interest in really becoming a part of the communities that we serve. In San Mateo County alone, members of our Recology San Mateo County organization are on 15 different nonprofits. We serve in leadership roles in the community.
Wow,
and
15.
And we also, under Mike's vision, Mike put together a Recology volunteer program. And since 2008, we've done 30 different volunteer events. And I'm not talking about a little event. This is 200 people strong, doing a lot of good. Most recently, we did one in 2018, I believe it was, Mike, in San Mateo County at the Martin Luther King Jr. Park in East Palo Alto, where we refurbished it and redid the grounds and added our compost and mulch from our service areas.
That is, Mario, you referenced Mike's vision. So Mike, when you took over, first as CFO and then as CEO and now President and CEO, vision and leadership are hugely important to a company like Recology. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I became CEO, we were a garbage company, actually in financial trouble. And that's why the change was made, asking me to fix that. And after we got it fixed, we said, the employees of the company were so interested in what was going on and how we were doing that we said, we need to involve these people. And we started saying, so are we satisfied with being a garbage company? We were hearing from a lot of the communities that they wanted more recycling. They wanted to think about how to deal with waste in better ways. And so we jumped in with both feet and said, we can figure out, we do recycling, but we can do better. We can find ways to make it easier for people to recycle and get products into the marketplace where they can be reused again. We kind of invented one day the idea of composting of organic material coming out of homes and businesses.
I love that.
It hadn't been done in our industry. You know, yes, people had taken leaves and tree trimmings and stuff, but all the other organic material, like food waste, like soiled paper, it hadn't, and we kind of said it should be done. This stuff doesn't belong in a landfill, and we said, let's try and make it work. And it took a while. I mean, the first few batches of compost we made were horrible. No one would. They were terrible. They stunk. No one would have wanted them. But we kept at it and made it work, and created a program that now it's been mandated by the state that every municipality has to do this.
So you were ahead of the curve. I mean, you talk about, yes, the green waste and that, and the clippings and the yard clippings and all of that, but you were really ahead of the curve on the other organic material.
Roseanne, yes. We were ahead of the curve 100 years ago when we first started Sunset Scavengers in 1920. Is when we started Sunset Scavengers, and those early waste handlers were recycling when recycling wasn't fashionable. In order to make ends meet, they would pull out glass bottles and jars, they'd pull out rags, they'd pull out textiles, they'd pull out paper and tin, only to make ends meet. And so these are the original recyclers, and we are carrying the torch today.
Well, they were called scavengers. That meant something. They were scavenging through what other people didn't want, trying to find things of value.
And when you think about it, and you think 100 years ago, people were thinking of that and wrapped into the name. And there's something else that we're going to talk about in the second part of the show, and it's you leading on a statewide initiative, which, I mean, hats off to you as a company. When you're thinking about celebrating this 100-year anniversary, what comes to your mind right off the top?
Well, we had a consultant tell us at our board meeting just a couple weeks ago that less than 1 in 10,000 companies make it 100 years. That is something really to be proud of. And it's not that we've had to change the way we do things. I think we just keep getting better. We keep finding more and more ways to deal with products that people no longer want. And what I'm most proud of, you mentioned for the second half of your show, dealing with something that has become a real environmental problem. We've put our neck out there where no one else wants to go. And I told a group of our managers about this at one of our meetings, and I thought I was going to get this, oh no, what's he doing now? They stood up and applauded. People want to see somebody taking a position, trying to get other types of industry to do the right thing, and that's hard.
You're leading. You are leading. You led starting 100 years ago. You led with employee stock ownership for your team. You led with organics, and now you're going to be leading. And I look forward to talking with Mike Sangiacomo, the president and CEO of Recology, and Mario Puccinelli, the vice president and group manager of Recology. We'll be right back. Welcome back to More Than the Bottom Line. I'm Roseanne Faust, and I'm your host today. With me is Mike Sangiacomo, the president and CEO of Recology, and Mario Puccinelli, the vice president and group manager. We had such a great conversation in our first segment. And now, Mike, I'd like to transition because you are leading as an individual, as the president and CEO, and as a company, a statewide ballot initiative for the November 2020 election cycle. Will you share with us what that is?
Sure. Let me give you a little background about why. we do a tremendous amount of recycling. We try and find the best markets for all these products that we handle. And paper and glass and metal, the industry kind of works with the recyclers. We haven't seen that to be the case with the plastics industry. December of 2018, 60 Minutes did a piece about plastic and what to do with it. It was filmed in our recycling plant in San Francisco. None of our people were in it, but it was in our plant. And right after it, they showed another about 20-minute segment on the status of plastics in the Pacific Ocean, and looked specifically at Midway Island, which is a disaster. There's plastic waste everywhere. And that's not the only place, but that's where they focused. And I looked at that show and said, with all we do, we don't even look like we're part of the solution here. This is an awful problem. With the staff in our office, I wrote an op-ed that appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle on December 22nd, 2018, challenging the industry, the plastics industry, to work with companies like us to find uses for all this stuff that they make. Too much of it is single-use plastic that has no use for it after its first and only use. We reached out to the plastics industry, and at first they ignored us, but a little prodding, got a meeting with the president of the American Chemistry Council and talked to him about the kinds of things we're concerned with, that communities that want to see less material going to landfill, want to see things cleaner, are concerned about what's happening with the products their people make after their initial and only use. And got some, they're all working on things. In 5 years, you're going to start seeing stuff. That's not soon enough. So we introduced 2 bills in the state legislature last year, one in the Assembly, one in the Senate, identical bills. They found their way through all the committees, slight minor modifications to them. And on the last day of the legislative session, we thought we had a pretty good chance of them passing. And the governor told us he was going to sign them. And the plastics industry had gotten involved and spent a whole lot of money in the last week of the session to scare people into not passing them. If this bill passes, we won't be able to package baby food, things like that.
Everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket.
Absolutely. Oh, so we said, you know what? I had put in the op-ed that if the legislature didn't do something, we would go to the people of California. We're doing that. We've drafted. Its official name is the California Plastic Pollution Reduction Act of 2020. It's going to have a much friendlier name: clean water, clean streets. We just got title and summary from the Attorney General, meaning we can actually now go out and collect signatures. That's going to begin very shortly. We need to collect 632,000 valid signatures, meaning
throughout California. Throughout
the state of California. This statewide initiative. It'll be on the November 2020 ballot, and our goal is to pass a law that requires certain types of packaging materials to be made of at least 75% recycled material. We can charge them a fee that they can't separately itemize and add on to the cost of a product that would then fund recycling infrastructure and some costs that communities are bearing in doing cleanups of all the products that they're now putting out there.
See, this speaks to your leadership as a company. You saw an issue, you wrote an op-ed, you tried to get it passed through the legislature. I mean, you went the very, I would say, traditional, normal route. You said it's a problem. Everyone says it's a problem. And, the industry on the other side is like, you know what? No, it's going to cause all these problems. Mario, what did the employees of the company say when Mike put this out there?
I can tell you, Roseanne, we were at a manager's meeting when Mike announced it, and there was you could hear a pin drop. And once Mike shared with us what he was going to do and how he was going to do it, there was a standing ovation. And actually, right now I've got chills, as you did earlier. I mean, folks were very moved by it's who we are, and it really came out that way.
And you haven't only put your name and the name of the company behind it. You've also put a significant amount, over $1 million in resources. And you're also, other companies, they're joining with you?
At this point, yes, we're moving the money into the bank account this week. We have at least 3 other organizations that have put up money, pledged money already. We're working on a lot more. Sadly, it costs a lot of money to run a political campaign.
Yes, especially a statewide political campaign.
Yes.
But I think with a company like yours, I mean, you're 100 years old. You have a track record of being innovative and leading. Where do you see, okay, besides the plastics industry as being a naysayer about all of this, where else do you think you'll have challenges with getting this passed?
Well, you know, we polled the concept initially, and over 70% of the people polled said they were in favor of it. And that's why I said this is really encouraging. We needed to poll specifically the language that's in the initiative now. One of the biggest problems is going to be raising enough funds. We can't come out of pocket as a company for what it's going to cost to win this campaign. But we need to find enough believers who will help us, will help participate and put up some of the resources that are needed. And we've got to reach enough people to make sure they get it and come out and vote in November.
And I think you're picking a very good election cycle in terms of it being a presidential year. There'll be a lot of interest. People have become more sensitized. I think many people saw that 60-minute show, saw the floating plastic island in the Pacific. People don't want the single use anymore. And I think you leading as a company and as an industry saying, this isn't working anymore.
Well, since that show, there's more issues have come out about waste plastic. It tends to break into little micro pellets and microfibers, which are in our water, that are in our air, that get into our food. We're all drinking it and breathing it and eating it, and no one knows what the long-term impacts of that are. And for an industry just to ignore that, to me, it's just absolutely appalling. And that's why we say something needs to give. We just can't keep going like we're doing.
And I think you're going to see in the polling results, I mean, 70% initial polling, and when you have the language and kind of the catchy name, because you know that that's important in a political effort, that will be, I mean, I just don't see people not getting behind this. But in terms of, like, we're coming to the end of our second segment, I'd love for you to share some final thoughts about Recology, the company, Recology, the community member, some things that you feel that our viewers need to know about you as an organization.
Go ahead, Mario.
Well, I just wanted to add to Mike's discussion, our discussion here today. San Mateo County is a like-minded community. They have the same values. Our residents and businesses in San Mateo County since 2011 have recycled 650,000 tons of recyclable material, and then recycled another 900,000 tons of compostable material. So San Mateo gets it, and we're just hoping that the rest of California will get it as well. And I think we're again, with Mike's leadership, I can't say enough about Mike's leadership and vision.
After 30 years of doing this, it feels really good to see that the company has the level of respect I think we've gotten. It feels so good to see that employees, people who used to just work for a company, now believe they're part of it. We've been able to do things like take folks who used to live in housing projects, and I mean, I can name some of them who they came to us. They never had health benefits before in their life. One woman had her teeth fixed when she was in her mid-40s. Had never been to a dentist in her life. These people have been able to get out of the project and buy homes, and and they're sending kids to college, and life is changing the way it should. So to see that a company can make a difference like that, to me, is extremely pleasing and refreshing.
And Roseanne, if I may add, we have 5 employees who work at Recology have 50 years or more of service. We have an additional 49 employees who have 40 years plus of service, and I'm happy to raise my hand as one of those who wears that badge very proudly. So that just kind of tells you a little bit more about the company, who we are, what we're about.
What I find very just heartwarming about our conversation today is your faces. They light up when you talk about Recology, when you talk about 100 years old, the innovation that your company has put forth, where you were 100 years ago, where you are today, and where you're going in the future by leading on this statewide initiative. I mean, and having 30 and 40 years, we know that you both started when you were in elementary school. I mean, hands down. But it's so gratifying as a community member. I'm a customer. I believe in what you do. And it's exciting for our viewers, for the San Mateo County community, to know that there are companies like you out there. I want to thank you, Mike Sangiacomo, President and CEO, Mario Puccinelli, Vice President and Group Manager of Recology. It's been wonderful to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roseanne. Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back. In today's segment of Guess the Company, we have 3 facts for you. This company was founded by Tony Morabito, named after the voyager who had rushed the West for gold. For a long time, their training facility was located in Redwood City since the early 1950s, before moving to Santa Clara in 1988. In 1946, they were charter members of the All-American Football Conference. They joined the National Football League in 1950, and they are 5-time Super Bowl champions in 1982, 1985, 1989, 1990, and 1995. My guess, you have figured out that they are the San Francisco 49ers, located today in Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of More Than the Bottom Line. Look forward to seeing you the next time.
This program is brought to you by SAMCETA, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association.